So when you're solving trig equations, what you have to ask yourself, you got to remember two things. You got to remember where is so you got to remember what quadrants these trig functions are positive and negative in. Remember, all the trig functions are positive in quad one. Only the sine and the cosecant are positive in quadrant two. Only the tangent and cotangent are positive in quadrant three, and then only the cosine and secant are positive in quadrant four. So that's one thing to remember. Then you got to think about your output for sine and cosine. And I mean, I guess the other ones too, but since those are just reciprocals, you can always think about it. So my output for the arc sine is in quadrant four and in quadrant one. And but remember down here, that's going to be a negative angle, and so you're going to have to, if you want to solve between 0 and 2 pi, you got to do some subtraction. And the output for arc sine or arc cosine is in quadrant one and quadrant three. So that's the arc cosine and x, I guess I'll put. This is the arc sine. So let's look at some. So let's look at I don't know. Let's look at number 25. 25 is not too bad. So I know I'm going to do the arc sine, and that's just a calculator problem. Make sure you're in radian mode. But because sine's positive in quadrant one and in quadrant two. And when I do the output from arc sine, since it's positive, I know it's got to come out, and my answer on my calculator is going to be that angle there in quadrant one, which is the same as theta. The second answer will be over here in quadrant two. And that's the reference angle is the same as the reference angle in quadrant one. So if I need the answer in quadrant two, I'm going to do pi minus my calculator answer. Okay, so that's how you get the two answers if it's sine and it's positive. What about something like 27, where the sine's negative? Well, let's see. I know sine is negative down here in quadrant one, or down here in quadrant four. And it'll also be negative over here in quadrant three, because I know the only things that are positive are cosine and secant and tangent and cotangent down there. So we know that's where sine falls, and it's negative. So then the other thing you got to worry about when you do arc sine, so when I do the arc sine of, what is it, negative 0.58, I'm going to get a negative answer. Right? My calculator is going to tell me some negative angle. And then, so if I need to do for my quadrant three answer, remember, this is my reference angle. That reference angle is right there, and I'm just going to treat it as a positive number. So my answer in quadrant three is going to be pi plus whatever that reference angle is. Okay, remember, reference angles are always just positive. We just treat them as positive. And my answer in quadrant four will be 2 pi minus my reference angle. Ref angle. Okay, so that's what you say. Remember, when you're dealing with the arcs, with a trig function with sines equal to a negative number. So now what about something like number 29 and then again number 31? We can do both of those. So number 29, I've got a negative cosine. So I've got to remember that the cosine, my output for my arc cosine function will be in those two quadrants. And everything's positive over in quadrant one, and the sine and cosecant are positive in quadrant two. So that tells me when I do my arc cosine of my angle, my output is going to be here, and that is going to be the angle that my calculator is going to give me. Okay, so that's the first answer. And then where else is the cosine negative? Well, it's negative down here in quadrant 4, or I'm sorry, quadrant 3. And we know that this angle has to be the same as this angle because that's the reference angle. So to get this other answer, I'm going to have to do pi minus my calculator answer. And then I'm going to do pi plus whatever that result is. Okay, so that'll add on, because this is really my reference angle, right? That'll help me find my reference angle. And then in order to get that green, well, in case you get some color blindness issues, I'm aware of this. My son has this. So I was going to make sure I point it out. This angle here has to be pi plus the reference angle. Okay. And then for number 31, that's just where's the cosine positive. So since I know everything's positive in quadrant 1, and I know cosine's positive in quadrant 1, that's where my answer is going to be. And so when I do arc cosine, it gives me my reference angle. So to get the other place where cosine is positive is down here in quadrant 4. Remember, all seniors turn crazy. So this angle here is my reference angle. So that's going to be 2 pi minus my reference angle. Or basically it's 2 pi minus my calculator answer. So hopefully that'll help you get both parts of that question right. And this extends when you're starting to deal with, functions where you gotta think about period shifts, period stretches, and shrinks, and all that. Okay, so hopefully this is a long enough video and help you get there.